What's going on, great people? Why do I call you great? Hey, somebody's got to be great today. It might as well be you. Welcome once again to Investing and Trading Made Simple. I am your host, Cedric Threet, aka Simple Cedric. And that's what I'm here to do. Make investing and trading simple. In today's video, we're going to be talking about fundamental analysis. In the last video, we talked about technical analysis, which is what you use when you are a trader. But today, I'm going to be talking to the investors. If you want to become an investor and be a great one, you need to know fundamental analysis. So I'm going to roll my short intro and we'll get right to it. All right, so here we go with fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis is a method used to determine the value of a stock by analyzing the financial data that is fundamental to the company. It takes into consideration variables that are directly related to the company, such as its earnings, dividends, and sales. It focuses on these factors and others to determine whether or not a stock should be bought or sold. So if you want to be an investor, you've got to learn how to do some fundamental analysis. Basically, it's doing research by looking at a company's balance sheet. But there are also some other factors that you have to consider rather than the balance sheet or the financial statements. There are other things to consider as well, such as whether or not it's an ethical company or it's a stable company. Who's the CEO and what are they doing, and are they doing business in an upright manner, and do you agree with what's going on with this company? For instance, a lot of people are investing in marijuana companies now, and that's fine. I'm not here to judge anybody. They can do what they want to do, but I don't smoke marijuana, so I don't want to invest in a marijuana company. But there are a lot of people who do, and that's fine. But before you do, you need to consider certain factors. You need to look at these companies' financial statements. And used to, you would have to go to the library and get a book to research called Value Line, and you could look in that book and it had hundreds of companies in it, and it had their financial statement where you could find out all of this information. But now with the invention of the internet, you don't have to do that. All of this information is right at your fingertips. So if you want to be an investor, then you can do this by just going on these companies' websites and looking at their financial statements. And it's great to be an investor. Matter of fact, I think you should be an investor before you become a trader. When you can actually do both, it's up to you. But when you're looking at becoming an investor, in other words, holding a stock and buying it and holding it for a year or more, then you want to do your research by looking at the fundamentals of the company. And here are some things that you want to consider. You want to look at a company's earnings. You want to look at the earnings. And earnings is basically the bottom line of a company's financial statement. It's their after-tax net income. That's what earnings are. And these earnings are announced quarterly. Every 3 months, they will have what's called a projected or forecasted earnings, and then they will have the actual earnings. And if the company's actual earnings are beating their projected or forecasted earnings, then that's a good thing. You also want to look at their earnings per share, EPS. Now, what that is company's net profit or its earnings divided by the shares of common stock it has outstanding. Remember, in one of the previous videos, I told you there are two types of stocks. There's common stock and there's preferred stock. Well, earnings per share deals with the common stock, and it indicates how much money a company makes for each share of its stock. Then you also want to look at the price to earnings ratio, the PE ratio. And what this does, it relates a company's share price to its earning per share. If they have a good PE ratio, then that means that the company's stock is overvalued, or they're doing some good business. They're actually making a lot of money. Another thing to consider is its sales and revenue. Now, sales and revenue is basically, well, I won't say it's the opposite of earnings. Earnings is your bottom line. Sales and revenue is your top line. Sales and revenue is your gross income. It's the money that the company is making from the sale of its goods and services. So it's the gross income that they have before they start subtracting all of their expenses. The earnings is the bottom line. The sales and revenue, that's their top line. And then finally, you want to look at a company's dividends. A lot of people won't purchase companies unless they have dividends, unless they are distributing dividends. Remember, in a previous video, I told you that dividends are a company's way of just saying thank you for investing in their companies. That's what dividends are. But all companies don't pay dividends. Some companies take the dividends and they reinvest them into their company to make more money. But you can do the same thing. I mean, you can, if they are issuing dividends, you can tell them that I don't want you to give me the dividend check. I want you to take that money that you would have given me and reinvest it and buy more shares. That's called a DRIP fund, DRIP, which stands for Dividend Reinvestment Plan. So these are just a few of many factors you need to consider before purchasing a stock. This is all found in your fundamental analysis, and I'll show you where you can find it. One of the places you can find fundamental analysis for a company is by going to this website that I like called Investingcom. You can go to that website and scroll down to a section called Stock Screener. And when you click on the Stock Screener, you can just type in any particular company, or they actually have them listed in alphabetical order. But I'm looking at Apple right now, and you see here under the word fundamental, it actually shows the fundamentals that we were just talking about. Here's your PE ratio. There's your revenue. There's your EPS. And there is your dividend. So that's a great place to start when you want to know what these companies are doing. This is how you do your due diligence before you invest in a company. Here's another great website I like to use, Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance. They have a plethora of information. Yahoo Finance. Here you see the same information. Here's Apple. And look, you have your EPS right there, your PE ratio. You even have the date of its next earnings date that's coming out. Here's something else you can consider, the 52-week range. You could actually go out more than 52 weeks, but you want to look at this 52-week range and see where in the last 52 weeks this stock has ranged from $103 all the way up to $151. But what I wanted to show you on this website, see these earnings here? You can look and it'll tell you, look, it says it beat its earnings right there. It beat the estimate or forecast or projected right there. It beat it again in that quarter, and it beat it in that quarter. So this is some great information to find out in doing your fundamental analysis. And speaking of the last 52 weeks, going back on the chart, looking at the last 52 weeks, you can also just pull up a chart. I think a good rule of thumb is to pull up a chart and look at anywhere from the last 3 to 5 years of any stock that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be Amazon, as I'm looking at here, or Apple, but looking at Amazon, you see where it's been rising since 2017, even before that, really. Kind of leveled out here and then took a big dip in 2020. Of course, everybody took a hit in 2020. But since then, it's been doing nothing but rising. You want to pull up a stocks chart to see if they have rising price and growth. A lot of people purchase stocks for growth. Some people purchase stocks for value, or they purchase it for the dividend. And going back to the dividend, I mean, You need to look at these charts, because what good is it for you to purchase a stock and just because it's giving dividends, but the stock is actually going down? So you need to look at the last 3 to 5 years of the chart, and that'll give you a good indication of whether you should purchase that stock or not too. Here's another good website called Nasdaq.com. Here it's showing Apple's earnings. I just went in and typed Apple, and I clicked over here where it says earnings. And look at this. It shows estimated and reported EPS, estimated and reported, estimated and reported. And if you look, you'll see that it has beaten its estimated earnings for the last 3 or 4 quarters. When you see consistency like that, that's the sign of a pretty good company. A lot of good. Here's another good website that I like to use called Finviz. Finviz stands for Financial Vision. Here again, I just typed in Apple, and they give you the chart. And look at all of this information you have down here. Ignore that guy. It's a free website, so you'll get pop-ups all the time. But you've got all of your information here that you need to do your fundamental analysis. In addition to doing your fundamental analysis, there are also some great books you can read. Here's one called Rule Number One by a gentleman named Phil Town. It's a great book to read when it comes to finding out about fundamental analysis and how to pick a good stock. Here's another good book called Unstoppable Prosperity by a gentleman named Charles Payne. Another great book to find out how to do fundamental analysis and pick good companies to invest in. So I like to give you other people's information as well, not just my information and stuff that I know and that I've learned, but I like to also give you other people's information as well, because this thing is not about me. It's bigger than me, because I want you to find out all you can about learning how to be a great investor and trader. So there you have it, great people. Fundamental analysis. Now you know how to go and look at a company's financial statements to see if they are issuing dividends or not. You know how to look for their earnings and their earnings per share, their PE ratio. You need to know all of these things so you can make a fundamentally sound decision. See what I did there? So you can make a fundamentally sound decision as to whether or not you want to invest in a particular company. So thanks again for visiting my YouTube channel, Investing and Trading Made Simple. I am your host, Simple Cedric. Hey, keep hitting that like button, the share button, the notification. Keep coming back, because I'm going to be putting out some more videos. And as always, keep being great. I'll see you on the next video.